This video aims to outline an inquiry-based blended learning sequence that optimises learning opportunities. The blended unit of work has been designed for a Year 6 classroom and aligns with the Australian curriculum, utilising both face-to-face learning and digital technologies to foster students' ability to inquire, communicate, collaborate and create. This video will explain the learning sequence in depth and expand on 2 meaningful activities to be conducted in the online space. The unit of work has been guided by the Student-to-Student Online Engagement Professional Development Series to maximise positive learning outcomes and foster a collaborative classroom climate. In this unit, students will be exploring economic and business concepts covered in the HASS curriculum. In particular, they'll be considering the need for trade-offs and choices of alternative resources. They'll be investigating the effect consumer and financial decisions can have on individuals, the broader community and the environment. They will also consider the reason businesses exist and the different ways they provide goods and services. At the end of the unit, students will create a business proposal with their own idea for a small business. They'll consider opportunity costs, how they provide goods and services, and their target market. Students will design their business with sustainability in mind. The unit focuses on various aims. For example, students investigate the possible effects of consumer and financial choices. Here is an overview of the unit. As the unit has been designed for a Year 6 primary school classroom, each lesson will take place in the physical classroom. However, various activities will be conducted using digital platforms. The overarching learning platform that will be used in the digital space is Teams, and the supporting tools are Padlet and PowerPoint. The unit prioritises higher order thinking, discussions and group work, and so these platforms have been chosen for their ability to foster collaboration and engagement. As you can see, Lesson 1 is purely about equipping students with background knowledge and broadening their conceptual development through classroom discussions and the use of supporting resources. Lessons 2 to 4, however, follow the same structure. They begin with content facilitated by the teacher in a face-to-face discussion environment. Then, students will break into groups or work independently to complete the outline activities using digital platforms. All content facilitated by the teacher will be uploaded to the shared class Teams group so students can access the content again if they need to. In this Teams platform, students will be assigned a group, which acts as a place and a space for contribution. The final lesson in the unit is focused on the assessment task, where students will design a business proposal using PowerPoint. In the first group task, students find out what it means to be a conscious consumer by researching a topic and answering specific questions that relate to sustainability. Students will complete the activity by working in their Teams group on a collaborative document and then posting the main points from their findings to the class Padlet, where other groups will post questions and contribute to discussions related to their findings. In the second group task, students will research a water-related business. Students work together to create a PowerPoint presentation about the business that they each have access to through their Teams group. Each group then presents their PowerPoint to the rest of the class at the end of the lesson. In the independent activity, students learn about 2 young entrepreneurs. They discuss their findings in a whole class setting. This task encourages students to begin thinking about their own business portfolio idea. They'll post their thinking to Padlet by posing and responding to a range of considerations for starting a business. As it was stated, the teacher builds the introductory and content knowledge and works with the students on the topic of economics and business through knowledge building, content materials and discussions at the beginning of each lesson in a face-to-face learning environment. Within Teams, there will be specific channels that relate to each underlying concept. For example, one that contains the content about opportunity cost. This allows students asynchronous access to the content. An important part of this phase is building understanding about terminology associated with the unit. The content knowledge focused upon at the beginning of each lesson will be relevant to the activity the students will then complete. The teacher will provide scaffolded instructions about how to complete the activity before instructing students to begin their group work or their independent work. Now we are going to look into the first group activity that will take place in Lesson 2. Each group is given the autonomy to select from 4 different topics, which are palm oil, food miles, sweatshops, and the Thank You brand products, which will be the focus of their group work. Students can access this document through Teams. Within Teams, they'll also have access to a template that outlines the questions to be answered. A group member will need to save the template and upload this to their shared group files to be worked on collaboratively. Students will use their iPads to scan the QR code. If they're using laptops, they'll be provided with a link, and this will take them to the website of their selected topic. Once each group has gathered all the relevant information related to their topic of choice and answered the guiding questions, they'll summarise the key facts and interesting points by making one group post to Padlet. All other groups will have access to view these posts on Padlet. Students will then be required to make 2 individual posts, where they either pose a question, respond to a peer, or make a comment. The idea of this is to foster a higher order thinking discussion. For example, students may comment on whether they had heard about this topic prior to the activity, what stood out for them, whether this has changed their opinion on certain businesses. Then, once all students have engaged in the Padlet discussion and are familiar with each of the 4 topics, the teacher will facilitate a classroom discussion where students can solidify their understanding of what it means to be a conscious consumer. Now we're going to take a look into the second group activity that will take place in Lesson 3. Once again, students will be given the autonomy to select a water-related business that stands out to them, which will be the focus of their group work. Students can access this document through Teams, and they'll use their iPads to scan the QR code. If they're using laptops, they'll be provided with a link. This will take them to Inquisitive, which is an educational resource. They select the business from the list and will be redirected to the business website. Students work together to create a PowerPoint presentation about the business that they each have access to through their Teams group. When creating the PowerPoint, they must include information that relates to each of the question prompts found within the Teams document. Groups will work on this for the most part of the lesson, and at the end of the lesson, they'll present their PowerPoint to the class. This blended unit of work is underpinned by the principle of management. In this learning design, the engagement begins as teacher to student and student to content, then moves towards student to student and student to interface as students begin their group work. The use of Teams as the overarching platform acts as a place and space for all learning both within and beyond the classroom. It's been structured clearly into different channels for content, resources for group work, resources for the assessment tasks, as well as a specific channel that groups will use to work collaboratively on shared documents and save them in a place accessible to all. So there's identification of everything in the online space, making everything clear and showcasing the pathways through the learning sequence. The main feed of the Teams learning space will be used as a discussion forum, where the teacher can promote dialogue by posing and responding to questions. This allows a sense of social presence and conversational chat, which is a key idea in the management principle. This structured digital environment using Teams aims to decrease the distance of misunderstandings and increase students' capability to work autonomously. Management is exhibited throughout both of the outlined activities that were discussed. For example, group dynamics will be considered as students will be working in pre-arranged groups. Students' work within these groups is regulated by the setting of routines and procedures. For example, in the Conscious Consumers activity, students are required to make 1 group post to Padlet and then make 2 individual posts, either in reply to a peer or by posing a question. The activity instructions are short, sharp, and visual, and there will be clear protocols for activity durations, such as a specified start and completion time, and so students will have some boundaries for when they will be using these tools. Students are given a sense of autonomy and choice when completing the activities, as they are able to select from different topics and businesses, which promotes engagement. The activities include interdependence, so students' success depends on each other. In summary, management focuses on the organisation of the content, the tools, and organising the discussion so students are able to make choices and feel supported when they are engaging online.